The program management module in the Nonprofit Success Pack is something you can add on top, like the volunteer management one we talked about a few weeks ago. You have to install it onto your org, but you don't have to. So it's not the same as the case management module that costs money that Pamela brought up last week. So I talked to a vendor about possibly demoing that for us in the upcoming weeks. We'll see if he's willing to take part of his Saturday off, but he is a nonprofit partner or Salesforce partner that specializes in the case and program support. So possibly he'll get that. And then like we talked about, I'm going to ask an account executive if they'll give me as a Salesforce partner a module or like a free trial to it so we can see it. Now I have to get, okay, there's multiple screens here for this PowerPoint. Okay, so today's use case is going to be the Georgia Lions Lighthouse Foundation. I've used it in the past. I worked here for 6 or 7 years, so they help low-income Georgia residents get eyeglasses, eye surgeries, and hearing aids. And today I'm going to be talking about their Vision Clinic program. So I'm going to we'll look at the data model in a second, but I wanted to give examples first. It's pretty complex and there's a whole lot of objects in it. So it's kind of something you have to think through, which we are going to do after I demo this. But the Vision Clinic is the program. And each, the clinics, basically how they work is they coordinate with another nonprofit clinic. So the Georgia Lions Lighthouse goes to a nonprofit clinic in Savannah, just a general healthcare clinic, and then they bring the eye care equipment in and the volunteer doctor in for the day to perform eye exams. And then they take the prescription and they make the eyeglasses in-house and mail them to the client. So I'm calling the program Vision Clinic. It has multiple locations that they work with, and that's what we're going to call a program cohort. The example that is sometimes given through Salesforce is more of, say, an after-school program, and you might have different program cohorts of that after-school program based on age or something like that. So it's just a grouping within the program is a contact record. So the program plus the cohort plus the client equals what they call a program engagement. And I'll be showing you an example of this in real time. The eye exam is the service. So it's the service attached to the program. And you can have multiple services attached to the program. The doctor performing the service is going to be the primary service provider, and that's a lookup to the contact object. The org program manager is the other service provider, and that's what I'm calling them. That's just an example, but there's a field called other service provider that looks up to the contact. This happens every first Saturday. So that's the service schedule is going to be, you schedule it out sort of how we looked at the volunteer. It's very much like the volunteer management module where you had a job recurring schedule. So in the same example, I used the same example when we were doing the volunteer. So I used the Vision Clinic as the volunteer program basically. And then we had the recurring schedule of that clinic. And then the particular Saturday that the contact receives service is called a service session. And then the client who receives the eye exam on a particular Saturday, so the eye exam is the service, for the particular location, that program cohort is the service delivery. And then it all rolls into the service participant. So we'll look at the data model and then we'll look at it in real time. I think it'll make the most sense in real time. And then we'll build a program ourselves. It doesn't have to do anything with the Lighthouse. We can just if start to noodle and think on this as we're going through the data model. If you can think of a nonprofit that you currently work with or that you've worked with in the past that could have benefited from this program, and then we can kind of think through while we design it. So this is what Salesforce org has in terms of the program module. The account obviously is connected to the contact, and then the contact's attached to the program engagement, which is attached to the program cohort. You can see why I kind of tried to give examples first. This has the examples that I'm about to show you in real time. So Sarah Smith goes to the Vision Clinic, the program in Atlanta, the program cohort. And when she does that on a particular date for that program, that's called a program engagement. And she receives from that program, she receives a service. So she receives the service delivery at a particular, so the service delivery is to the actual service. The service session associates with the actual program. And then it's connected, that session's connected to the schedule of services. And then she's a service participant in the eye exam service. So, like I said, it's gonna make a little bit more sense when I show you in real time. Does anybody have any questions before I show you in real time? Okay, I'll take that as a no. So when we do come up with our program data model after I demo, we'll first create the contact. Second, we'll create the program. Third, the program cohort. Then the service schedule. Then the service session. Then service delivery. And then service participant. This, I think, is really helpful because when we did, like I said, the volunteer management model is very similar. And when we did that, I got a little lost in terms of what the right order is. So hopefully this will help y'all if you are volunteering or working with a nonprofit that could benefit. So I downloaded the program package from, it's called PMM. So you could Google PMM NPSP download. You could probably put project management. And then you get to the module documentation. And under the Git, that's where you would install it. So it's just like some of those other modules like volunteer module or even NPSP itself when you're downloading it into a dev org. You just do it from this Power of Us hub. But I usually just Google what I'm looking for to get to the right page. So first I'll go to the contacts, and Sarah Smith is the person that I used. So Sarah Smith, she's come to the Vision Clinic. So you can see the program engagement, service delivery, and service participant objects are what is connected to the contact. The program services and program cohorts are general, right? They're not connected to the contact. So I can go to the vision clinic, receive an eye exam. That service is performed on a service schedule of every, I have this as every week on Saturday, and I have it as ending in June. And then when I created this, it automatically created all the service sessions associated with that. And then the service participants, this is just something I should have named this when I played with this. This should have been named like Sarah Smith eye exam and Sarah Smith eyeglasses. Or not even eyeglasses. This one, I shouldn't even have created it. I'm just gonna delete it out. But because this is the service schedule, you could see all the participants that have participated within this service schedule. So if I had two, so like let's say it was happening weekly on one day and bi-weekly on another day, I could have two service schedules. So the service participants could be, they would be different in each schedule. And then the service deliveries combine these things. So I have a particular service session. That's when I actually start and end. So you can think of that as an appointment. And then the program engagement is my particular or Sarah's particular engagement in the program. So you can see it's related to the client, the program, and the program cohort. Does anybody have any questions? I know that was a lot, and I went over it pretty quickly.
If you may repeat what you said in the last 15 minutes.
What?
If you may repeat what you said in the last 15 minutes to ask the questions. No, more or less understandable, thanks.
Okay, so now I need audience participation. So we're gonna do this. So first we're gonna create a contact. Somebody yell out what that contact's name should be.
Monique.
Monique, excellent. You're gonna be a client. Monique, you want me to use your last name or do you have one?
Sure, you can use my last name. Yeah. I need glasses. I lost mine.
Oh, that's what I was about to say. Do you need glasses?
Well, they're not seeing glasses. They're just computer glasses.
Okay.
But we'll pretend.
Okay. So that was the first thing we were going to do. We're going to create a client record. And then we'll create what's second? The program. Okay, so somebody come up. It doesn't have to do anything with what I've been talking about. So it doesn't have to be for a vision clinic. It could be like I said, an after school program, or can anybody think of an example from something they've done?
Rental assistance.
So the program would be providing dental assistance to people?
Rental assistance.
Oh, rental assistance. Okay. So we could call this a housing assistance program. Does that work?
Perfect.
All right. And let's make it active. We could put a short summary and a target population. Does anybody want to have fun with that? Target population, location.
Young person, young attractive person.
Did you say young attractive people?
Yeah.
We're only helping young, attractive people.
No,
who have trouble.
people attractive. They want someone that attracts something, or like someone that's looking to buy their first home or something like that.
Oh, okay. How about
I'm not saying like a dating profile.
young people who have trouble paying their rent?
But young people that have disabilities.
Ooh, yeah.
Okay. With disabilities. All right. And we'll start this at the beginning of the first of the month. And we'll not put an end date and program housing issue area. We'll go ahead and save. All right. So now we've created a program. The next thing is to create a program cohort. So you remember I did that based on location for the Vision Clinic program. I think you could do it by classroom. You could do it, in this case, you could do it by building. So depending if the housing assistance program is not actually just giving somebody rent money, if they have housing units. But Marlissa, can you give an example of a program cohort?
So if it's breaking down kind of by location and site, you could say, I'm kind of thinking of the first example you came up with. We could just say Atlanta office.
All right.
It's around the country.
And then, yeah. So we'll create more than one. So maybe San Diego,
Central Florida.
Orlando. I'm in South Florida. Let's do a New York. All right, so now we have several program cohorts that are active. And you can see, you can do a start date or end date. Again, that would more apply to if you were gonna do like a classroom or something. That would make a lot of sense. So then the fourth thing we're gonna create is the actual service. So what I said, where the service was eyeglasses or eye exam, like I said, it could be rental assistance that is in the form of cash, or it could be an actual building that you have. And so those could be two different services that you're providing. That's why it's a one-to-many relationship with the program to services, is because one program could provide multiple services. We don't have to, and you don't have to if you're designing this for another nonprofit. And the one program really only provides one service, but who can think of one for this?
Like credit counseling or something like that?
Okay. And then
sort of like a housing, like how to get the best benefit out of what you put into the housing, or a
okay,
class.
so like another counsel, like financial counseling.
Sure, yeah, sorry.
All right.
It's early here, so.
Are just yeah, I would, let's see, services.
Yeah.
Counseling. So that could encompass financial, job placement, because that's, I mean, essentially you want somebody to become independent through your program. And then I would say the actual rental assistance fund. funding. All right, so we have 3 services. So off of those services, we'll have a service schedule. So for credit counseling, we could create a service schedule where, see the options. It's going to think about it. I have a brand new computer right behind me that I haven't set up yet, that I got yesterday, that I'm excited about. So hopefully we wouldn't run into this as much. So I think this might actually have an auto name feature, but we can have the first session start. And if you had something that was daily and hourly, I guess you would have to create, if you had like 8 sessions a day, and you had multiple service providers. So if you had, I would imagine if you had 3 program managers and they each had 16 shifts during an 8-hour day. So they had 30-minute appointments, and let's just say 14 because they get a lunch break and another break. Then I think you would have to create actually you might have to create 14 times 3 different service schedules. I'm not sure, but that's what I would guess.
Almost like slots, right?
Yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
Okay.
So, and then I can check this off to create the service sessions automatically, but I guess you don't have to. And it's saying select either service scheduled end date or number of service sessions. Oh, every 1 day. And then where is number of service sessions? Okay, oh, there it is. After, I don't know, let's create them for the month. Especially if we're putting a single provider on it, because then if that person leaves the organization. Oh, and I don't know, does it have a skip weekends option? It doesn't. Okay, so you might not want to create the sessions automatically depending. But actually you could exit them out right
that was
here.
gonna ask that, yeah.
So if you are creating them 30 at a time, you'd have to have some kind of reminder for the person who's supposed
But
to.
if we use weekly option, would it, if we use the weekly option, wouldn't we have the option to exclude the weekends instead of the daily
Well,
one?
no, because I mean, if you did the weekly option, you'd be picking a particular day. Oh, let's go back and see what it looks like. I mean, that's why we're doing this. So if we did weekly, it would ask you what day. Oh,
There you go.
so what does it do if I do this? Oh no, that's going to be every 8 weeks. So we want.
So if
Let's
you want
skip-
for a month, you can schedule for 4 weeks.
Okay, so now this created them.
Monday through Friday.
Yeah, Monday through Friday. Good call. Excellent. And then, yeah, let's look at what it looks like when we do monthly. Then you get this these options on the 16th day or the 3rd Saturday. I wonder if that's from something else I built. But let's do what we just had. And then we're going to pick our program cohort, the Atlanta office. And then it's going to create the service schedule. And then after we create the service and the service schedule, we're going to create the service sessions. We did that. That automatically happened. Now we're going to create the program engagement. So we go back to the credit counseling, we go back to the housing assistance program. And if we click on new to program engagement, this is going to be the client. So Monique, this is the first time. It's not till the 7th step that we're actually doing this for the contact, for the person. And we can say she's applied, and then program engagement name. Again, I think this automatically and then the program cohort, we could put there, role as client. But you see, the role could be volunteer or service provider for the program engagement as well. So we are just tracking right here that Monique has applied to our housing assistance program. It doesn't say what particular service she's applied for. Okay. And then auto name override, we don't want to do that. So it does automatically name it. You have to have a name, obviously, but and we can put an application date, and then I'll go ahead and save. Okay, so now that we have the program engagement, we can say, do we want to create a service delivery? Or is she, are we going to create a service delivery on top of this program engagement? Now, I don't know why that's not showing with new here, but I will create it from here. So again, I think this is going to automatically do it, but we'll pick the credit counseling service, and then we'll pick this counseling session. We'll pick the client, the program engagement, the service provider. And so this, you can see how it's attached to everything that we've already created. And then you can put a delivery date on which is going to be probably the same day as the session in this case. All right, and now I'm looking at my cheat sheet. The last step would be to create the service participant record. And that would be here. So the service participant record is when their status is, the service schedule, the service, and the program engagement all rolled in to one. So my personal thought is that this is a complicated, because I thought we already did a service schedule for this service. Did I pick a different one?
I thought you did credit counseling, but it seems like it just repeats. I don't know, some steps. I don't know if anyone else can thinks the same.
Yes, I think the same. It seems like it's a little overbuilt in a sense.
Yeah. So I don't know if we let's look at the data model again. Or the steps that we took. Oops. I'm wondering if there would be a way. I think you could get away with not having the service participant piece if you were trying to simplify this as an admin and think through the program. I would think you would need the service if you're tracking a program, but you might be able to get away with just doing the left-hand side of this. I could track the program engagement for Sarah Smith at the Vision Clinic in Atlanta without tracking what service she received, because maybe I know that my program, Vision Clinic, is always just going to be eye exams. So I really don't, but the reason I'd want the service schedule would be for the exact time of that and being able to associate it with the service provider, possibly. But that's how they've built it out. So the case management paid package might be better suited for some of the use cases we just came up with. But this is what I this is what I learned from playing around with it today. I haven't actually implemented it. Has anybody used it before?
I haven't used Salesforce for this type of service delivery tracking, but I have used Live Impact. And what you really get, the advantage of adding all of these different details really goes towards managing your volunteers to make sure that whatever you really want to offer, you're going to have volunteer coverage for it. And I'm a huge fan of reporting and figuring out where you need to put the most resources. So I'm a fan of kind of overdeveloping if it helps me get data in the long term for planning.
Exactly. And for grant management and for being able to see, okay, how many eye exams did we provide? And how many what is the average number of engagements that a client had with us, especially if you had a service delivery that was more, or maybe it's a yearly eye exam, right? Maybe it's spaced out, or sometimes you might have a service offering that is on a daily basis. And the other thing that they have programmed in here, let's see, pull it up, is you can, on these service sessions, I believe, hold on, yes, you can track attendance. So you see how this status is pending? So this would be like in the case of the after school program. If I put her as present and then submit, the status of this service session is now complete. So you would possibly be able to use this track attendance component, and possibly you could do something in a mobile view or develop an app where you could track attendance for all the service sessions associated with a particular service schedule or something like that.
I have a question. Can you add fields? Because I feel when you were labeling, like say Monique's interest was housing counseling, you'd have to type that in as a title. And what if somebody's not so uniform as in typing in the requests? Can there be like a drop down saying housing counseling? Just
Well,
so
there
when
was a
things
drop
are-
down.
when you're labeling the, trying to think, right there, the service deliveries.
Right. You mean like up here, the name
Yes.
of it?
Yes.
Okay, so you can, I think it's in the NPSP settings.
Okay.
Let's click on edit. It might be in the NPSP settings in terms of naming conventions. Let's see. Because there was that one when I was creating it that said override auto name.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's on every single of the program objects or just some of them. And where that auto name exists. We could look in here and see if it's in the configuration. Customize naming for program engagement and service deliveries. So, okay, so there's a process builder for it. So I would suggest if you are going to play around with this for implementing it for a nonprofit that you work with, to read through this documentation as you're installing it into a sandbox.
Okay.
So you can customize the names. It looks like you can customize some bulk service. So the bulk service deliveries tab is where users can enter multiple service deliveries on a single page and relate them to contacts and program engagements. So that's sort of like, again, I find it very similar to the volunteer management. What's kind of cool is they can tie together. So my program example with the vision clinic and going to the eye exam and the actual service delivery, the service provider, if that was this guy, I already have him signed up for volunteering that day. So then it all kind of ties together in terms of if you do have a volunteer program, the volunteer providing the service to the client is, you could have, because they're connected, that is where you could have some interesting reporting, joined reports, or things like that.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Well, I think that's it for me. I'm sorry I don't have like a real life example to give you like I have on some of these other Saturdays. But like I said, best I could figure out from the documentation. The data model is pretty confusing, so that was the part I had to think through the most. Just sort of like a lot of the other data models, like when we did the engagement plans and the tasks and those sorts of things, and then created the flow from that. I really had to think through how the engagement plan was connected to the level, was connected to the engagement plan template, was connected to the tasks, to really understand how everything was playing together. Okie dokie. You know, a lot of times, for those who are here for the first time, a lot of times after we actually go over a topic, we just kind of share if there's anything that anybody's been working on that they have questions about or need help with, that we can all kind of share about.
Well, I wasn't here last week, but the week before I had discussed about email, and you gave a great presentation about it. And then what happened was I dug a little deeper with the director, and she said sometimes she has 30 to 50 volunteers
Okay.
just for project coordinating, and she didn't want to buy 30 to 50 more licenses. So what I used was BCC, and I activated that, so then the project coordinator can still work offline from Salesforce using the BCC email service.
But okay, so the volunteer, it's like 30 to 50 volunteers that are emailing, and those emails need to be connected to Salesforce.
Yes, because it lets the other volunteers for the events know the updates personally of what's going on. So they first get an email after they fill out that they want to volunteer for an event. Then the project coordinator will email the volunteer saying, hey, this is where it's going to be. And then they'll email them again saying if there's any other changes.
Okay, so the volunteer coordinators themselves are volunteers.
That's right. Mm-hmm. But
Okay.
there's so many events that they need project coordinators for each event. So then it would be so many people.
Yes, no, I get it. I'm just trying to think through, can anybody think of a Zap or something that would work for that? So basically what I demoed a couple weeks ago would be your typical typical use case for an outline of a typical use case for a sales rep. The word was coming to me. A sales rep to be logging their emails onto their system. So if I was going to log this email from Warren Walters, I could do that here through Salesforce for Gmail. But the way that this is working is through an extension where I log in to my Salesforce org. So if there's a volunteer where you want that email that the volunteer is sending to log through Salesforce, is there a way to get that to log into Salesforce based on the email of the person, of the volunteer who's emailing the other volunteer?
Yes. So if you go into your org and then you go to the upper right where your avatar is, and then, well, let me get there.
Okay.
Move this out of the way. Yeah, settings. And then on your left, you'll see email all the way down right there. And then email settings. And there's your, well, let me see. Oh, I think you need to activate BCC in setup, I believe, first.
Okay, so if I go to setup.
Yeah.
And type in BCC.
I think it's this one. Yeah, and then put your enable, and then put your email. Okay, and I believe if you go back to your avatar, it should be there. I don't see it. I swear it's there. Uh, um, maybe I can show in mine.
Yeah, that would be great. So
Let me,
I'm interested to, I don't quite understand.
yeah.
So I'd love for you to share your screen.
Yeah.
Let me, multiple participants can share.
So I'm trying to clarify what the goal is. I know that in the system I'm currently using, every email is sent directly out of Salesforce so that it can be attached to that contact, that household. So you're
Yeah.
just trying to make sure that everything that a volunteer is doing on your behalf for whatever
That's right.
area they're working in is attached to Salesforce. Because my recommendation would be to do it from within Salesforce so that
But
nothing.
that's what she was saying. There are 30 to 50 volunteers and they don't want to buy licenses for them.
You actually don't have to buy a license. They don't need the full CRM access. You can use partner.
I don't.
Those weird little licenses that are available under setup, you can use those little ones since they don't need full access to the entire system and to all applications. You can use a lesser license and pass those along to your volunteers.
But they
Oh.
go through so many volunteers. This would make it just easier if they don't have to. Sometimes they're there for a month, sometimes a year. You don't know how long they're there for. I think this would make it easier. So I go to email. Oh, so it goes email to
Oh,
my
okay.
email to
That's
Salesforce.
probably
That's
because
why.
I was in a dev org or something.
So then I'm on the right one. So I put my email here, and then the project coordinator's email here, or whoever will be on your behalf. And then whenever they send an email to anyone who's a volunteer, they use this in the BCC. And
Yes.
then it'll log back to the person. So, for example, this one, it'll show the email on the side here. And anything that this project coordinator sent, they can see the full email right here.
Okay, so this is the same process as email to Kate. How do you initially set up that that extension?
I think I did it with someone, so bear with me. We did it a while back. I think we did my.
No, it's probably email deliverability. Is that?
Under setup, there's an email to Salesforce option, and you have to turn it on.
Yeah, that's.
Okay.
There it is.
There it is. You passed it.
I did? Oh,
Yep,
yes.
yep.
Yeah, this one. So this one.
And then how do you get the one that was in your settings though? Where do you, is that in the email deliverability? Like when you set up email to case and things, you do that in email deliverability.
So under your avatar, you have your email under your settings.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's your email as the base email that's where you're logging in for your Salesforce, like your profile. And then
it automatically generates that thing because we turned on the BCC.
That's correct. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And so then you'd add anyone after your email of who it's going to be on your behalf, and then it tracks it back.
Now, do you tell the 30 to 50 volunteers that they have to put that into the BCC?
Yes. So
Okay.
I made a video for them this week telling them how this is what they're going to be using, just so they don't have so many profiles and logins, because yeah, they just don't want to deal with all that. If that's their main job, they don't need to be doing anything else in Salesforce.
And do you, as an admin, have you tested it? Do you get an error if they email to someone whose email isn't in Salesforce?
Yep, I did test it. I actually tested it because I forgot to put someone's a test email, and it did go through to Salesforce, but it gave me as the main email an error saying that I'm not on the list for Salesforce to BCC.
Okay. Cool.
That's it.
Well, I mean, I'd be interested to know in when you first sign up for NPSP, or if you just have the basic 10 licenses, how many of those partner licenses come with it? I'm gonna look up in case you do have something where it's not going in and out with the use case that Marlissa talked about. Oops. 10401. I'm just typing in a verification code and then I'll share my screen. Oh no, the info went in it. So where, Marlisa, where would the partner licenses be? Or is it actually on the user? So if I went to my user, it would be a permission set license. I haven't done that, if anybody has.
Yeah, I'm just as curious as well.
I think you have to, okay, chatter external, I think you have to have those partner licenses. I think you have to have community in order to do that. I'm not sure. I'll look it up, or somebody can look it up and post it in the LinkedIn group. Okay.
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, everybody. I'm off camera and late today, but thank you for the tail end of your program management module presentation. And I also am not prepared with my error message, but I just thought I'd see if anybody had any guidance for me. My understanding was that you could upsert into Salesforce, and if you have a Salesforce ID, it will update that record, and if there's no Salesforce ID, it will insert a record. Is that using data loader? Is that other people's understanding? Because I got error messages, and I confess I may have hit update instead of upsert one of the times, but I thought I tried it a second time and it still failed. And rather than take more time to figure it out, I just did an update and an insert with my separate records, but I'd really like to be able to get upsert to work.
I always just do update and insert. To be completely honest, so I will defer to anybody else on the call on that.
That's the second time I got that same answer. So but then it's like, then upsert really isn't a thing. So
I'm not sure it is. It's been there for years and years. Right? Let's Google. Mr. Google, what do you have to say about this? common error messages in data loader. I'll share my screen again. Let me do a Control F for Upsert, see if they.
Yeah, it's that first one. I got ID not specified, but I thought maybe that was when I updated. Okay, it's still necessary to map the ID column, but I did, yeah, because I was upserting. Alternately choose insert instead.
I might YouTube
So that suggests that it should work if you map the ID column but leave some of them blank.
But no, it says it is still necessary to map the ID column.
Right,
So
which
that
is what
doesn't
I
make
did.
any sense. I guess it means, oh, it means you have to have a blank. You have to have the ID column and map it to the connection, which you said you did. So
Right, because some of them have an ID and some of them don't.
right. I don't know what to say.
Okay.
I wish Salesforce had, chat support where you could share your screen real fast, but that's why we come up with these workarounds.
Yeah. I may post in the Trailblazer community now that I've checked with 2 people who don't know the answer. Thank you.
You're welcome. All righty, Roo. Well, I think we're going to cut it kind of short today. There's some chatty people who aren't on the call this afternoon, evening for some of you, morning for some of you. But thank you all so much. I'll post the recording. And if anybody has ideas for topics for the next sessions, I have been asked multiple times to have them planned like 4 weeks in advance and have the topics all lined up. But I kind of have to wing it and make up the topic. So if anybody has suggestions,